Good morning. Welcome to another Facebook live stream of the COVID-19 Care Conversation brought to you by Hawaii Pacific Health and the Hawaii Executive Collaborative. I'm Yanji Denise, joined by Ryan Kalei-Suji. You know, Ryan, we say every guest is a very special guest, but this guest today is highly anticipated. We are going to be talking to the director of the University of Hawaii Athletics.
That's right. David Matlin is standing by, ready to join us to give us sort of an update on what the future of UH Athletics looks like this fall, as well as into the future. Of course, a lot of uncertainty still with COVID-19 and its impact on not only the athletic program here at the University of Hawaii, but really throughout the country. So we wanted to get an update from him on how conferences, as well as other colleges, are preparing as this summer season kind of gets started and fall is right around the corner. We'd be interested to talk to him about the UH football team. There's a new head coach also that is going to be taking over. So a lot to talk to him about. If you have a question, please enter it into the comment section. And of course, share this video so that we can reach more people and be more engaged in this conversation.
Yeah, we love hearing from you. So if you've got questions for the athletics director, please let us know. Of course, before we bring him on, we always like to start with the count. 7 new cases reported as of noon yesterday. That's 692 positive cases. The good news is that there have been no new deaths for over a month. The last death reported on May 3rd. And of those tested so far, about little over 1% have tested positive. So we have some great numbers, and now we're starting to see more and more things open up. Restaurants, it was last week, and we're gearing up for gyms and other places where there are higher numbers of people, if you will, so-called high-risk activities. The paper also has a great article today. The CDC has released a list of best practices now. So, so simple things like if you can take the stairs, not the elevator, all kinds of great recommendations. We encourage you to go check that out. But of course, we want to welcome in our guest.
That's right. So at this time, we're going to be bringing in David Matlin from the University of Hawaii. Great to see you and great to hear from you. First off, let's just get started. Sort of what is sort of where you guys are at right now at the University of Hawaii? We know that there are still some question marks heading into the season, but what is sort of the approach that you folks are taking at this point in time?
Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be on. Yeah, as far as right now is, really, we're really subject. You got to look at federal guidelines, state guidelines, county, university, the NCAA, our conferences. There's an organization called the Lead One organization, which is all the FBS schools. So we're kind of, we're not as much decision makers as we are implementers. So what we're really doing is we're getting a lot of protocols and plans and different scenarios ready for when we get green lighted, that we'll be ready to go. The big thing we have to be probably more agile than we've ever been in our lives.
What do some of those scenarios look like? Let's take football, for instance. How do you anticipate that season moving forward?
Well, I think right now we are trending in a positive direction as far as, a lot of the school in the country planning on playing football and even looking with a good probability of starting on time. But it's going to be different. It will be different. We'll have to have different protocols for the athletes when they come in. When traveling happens, they'll go to the hotel, go to the practice, go back to the hotel, go to the game, and then go to the airport. They won't be as much, obviously, sightseeing, so to speak, for opponents' teams or our teams. And then there's the whole fan component. What will be the proper number of fans, if any? So we're planning for many contingencies on, from a no fan situation to a complete fan, but we anticipate it probably be a little more in the middle somewhere.
If you can talk to that about the fan experience, obviously just generating revenue-wise for the athletic department relies a lot on ticket sales, season ticket sales. This is normally a time where there's a big push for season ticket holders to renew their wahine volleyball and football. Yeah. I mean, and that's a big chunk of the revenue. What does the financial side of this look like, as you potentially may not have fans have the ability to watch in person?
Yeah, that's obviously a big factor. We actually sell more tickets than either of our conferences, because we sell a lot of tickets, not just for football, but for wahine volleyball, men's volleyball, baseball, men's basketball, and women's basketball. So, we're probably in this over $6 million in revenue from ticket sales, which is, high for our peer group. That said, we have to plan for, having fans. How will it look? It's probably not going to look as perfect it will be different, and but we have to err on the side of health and safety and really follow the guidelines from the organizations and the governmental agencies that I mentioned before.
What is it going to be like for Hawaii to host a team? I mean, I know that you said that you're the implementer, not necessarily crafting the plan itself, but I'm just curious, with the quarantine protocols as they are, we know that it's going to at least another month. What would that look like if a visiting team came here? Would they get some kind of an exemption for the game itself and then have to stay in their hotel the whole time? I mean, I'm just trying to think from a practical level what it looks like. And then the secondary question is, do teams actually want to come?
Yeah, well, very good questions. I think, right now the quarantine goes through the end of the month. We don't really have any events until the end of August. So the first question is, will there be a quarantine still then? If there is a quarantine, that is a little problematic for events. Then the question is, can we discuss exemptions by the way they're traveling, kind of traveling in a bubble, staying together? Those are things that part of our scenario planning and discussions we're having with various entities.
And I got to imagine even just coming back into the state. So when Hawaii teams go away, to play on the road perhaps, and they come back, they're probably these athletes are going to have to also take a test to make sure that they're ensured that they're safe to return back to their home.
There's no question there will have to be significant protocols in place. Testing, temperature checks, questionnaires, a lot of different protocols as they come back.
Wow, very interesting. So what are you hearing from some of your colleagues on the mainland? Do they want to come play in Hawaii?
Yeah, it's interesting. The question is, what will our schedule look like this year? If you ask me, I mean, very candidly, do I think we'll have less events? I think probably. I think some people are some conferences, especially ones that are farther away, are less likely to be coming this year. But as far as our conference partners and the majority of, like for football right now, everyone's a go at this moment. I just spoke to the AD from some Pac-12 school the other day, and the plan is to move forward. Everything's subject to change, but I think to your point is I think people want to come. I think the question is what will the lay of the land look like as we get closer to August.
We want to bring in some viewer questions. This one from Diana, who's watching from Maui. She said, for the athletes that are eligible to return next year due to the missed senior year this year, what are the plans for funding? As I understand, the school will not be funding these athletes. Of course, many of these athletes had their seasons cut short this year. Of course, the men's volleyball team was in a great position to compete for the national championship. We got word that those athletes will be returning. What does that look like for those athletes that had their season cut short? And how does the funding mechanism work for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're really not in the position. I mean, obviously the financial impact to the whole state and even athletics is pretty great. So we can't allocate additional dollars from our department for this. There's two ways that can happen. One is coaches can do it within their scholarship allotments, within their equivalencies they have. And some of them are doing that. So there's really no incremental cost there. The second one is really to fundraise for those initiatives. And we have a fundraising plan that's kicking off. We've kind of been in a silent phase of it as we're kicking it off, and we've already gotten some significant dollars for that to pay for it.
Let's go back to that fan experience that you were talking about. Are you anticipating maybe, that you would have like a sort of like what the restaurants are doing, where you have a little pod of people that maybe a family that comes together, and then they're 6 feet or 3 to 4 seats away from the next pod? Would that work? And then would no one be allowed to shout because you don't want to project? I mean, no, really, yeah. Because, churches, they don't want you to sing in church right now. And so, certainly don't want to be screaming in the stands, but, there's a lot of diehard fans out there. I'm just trying to think of how this actually works. Yeah.
So are we. I think in essence, there will be we're working on socially distant models with Aloha Stadium. We've already had 3 or 4 calls with them with both of our teams, looking at how that will look as far as pods of fans, socially distant away from each other, how the concessions will be, how the entry will be, how the egress will be, the mask situation. What will be the difference between indoor events and outdoor events? Because obviously, I think in the Stan Sheriff Center will be different than at Les Murakami Stadium. So, right now, the plans we're putting together for fan participation is limited fans and in a socially distant manner, but also looking at all the aspects of facility management, restrooms, and everything.
a few months ago, and I'm not sure if this has changed, but I spoke to a few coaches in Southern California who were talking about potentially just the teams in regions playing. So the teams in Southern California would sort of play each other, teams in the Pacific Northwest, to limit the travel and overall exposure by getting on planes and just driving. Obviously, that would be difficult for Hawaii because we don't have anyone else here. Have you heard anything like that about these regional sort of games that play, and how would Hawaii sort of play into something like that, being in the middle of the ocean like this?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Our region is our state,
Yeah.
So that is a little tough. That said, there is talk about regional play, especially for non-conference games, more so. And they're also looking at some different conference models. Us being in the Big West for most of our sports is all California. So right now, all the conversations we've had have been, we're planning on playing those games. We have had some schools that are coming from, I'd say east of the Rockies who've said that have reached out to us and probably are planning, giving us a heads up that there's a good chance that they won't come. Sometimes these are just because of economic reasons too. That's factoring in too. The NCAA has enabled more scheduling flexibility than in the past. I mean, there's a minimum amount of games that we have to have. We're obviously planning on honoring that, and I think we're good there. But for example, I mean, we have three Division II schools in Hawaii, so that could be a place where we get extra games as games cancel, which is an opportunity also.
Given the constraints that you're going to have on your budget, when you talk about $6 million in ticket sales, obviously you're not going to hit that no matter what the configuration is, and other just constraints because of the coronavirus. Do you anticipate any sports having to be scaled back or any programs being cut?
Yeah, well, right now we're not talking about cutting entire sport programs, but we are looking at how we can save money through traveling. Travel rosters might be reduced. Competitions are something we're looking at. Also, the Big West. I was on the finance committee with Jim Donovan from Cal State Fullerton and the AD from Santa Barbara to come up with ways a conference could save money. All in-person meetings. The way we, like I said, travel rosters. So we are looking at a lot of different areas where we think we can save some significant dollars.
What have you heard from some of the athletes? Of course, this has impacted, the COVID-19 has impacted so many sectors of our own lives. And some of these athletes that, we're talking about earlier, were poised to have fantastic seasons this year. I mean, there was a lot to be excited about UH Athletics heading into this calendar and school year. What have you heard from some of those athletes in terms of having their seasons cut short and their chances to compete for, in some cases, national titles?
Yeah, I was just on a panel recently with Colton Caldwell from volleyball. Boy, is he's special. I mean, a great our Jack Bonham Award winner, and we have so many great stories. Obviously, you look at it. Last year was the best year we've had in 10 years. What they call the Learfield standings. That's how you do in NCAA tournaments. This year, we were trending to do better than last year because in the spring, you look at men's volleyball competing for a national championship. Water polo was in the top 3. Beach volleyball looks like they were contending. Baseball was off to a really good start, and our tennis teams were looking good. So, so a lot of them, it's like disappointment because they were having great years, looking to compete for national championships. I'm proud of the way they've dealt with it, and what you learn in this, what you learn is that you have really two choices. You can wallow, or what you can do is you can think, what can I do about, what can I control, and how can I uplift other people? I mean, a lot of our programs, they've done, whether it be TikTok videos, cooking videos, ways to outreach. We are Hawaii's team, so we need to steward that with a lot of responsibility. And as we try to uplift others by providing fun content, that also kind of uplifts ourselves too.
And on the other side, how can our community best support these teams? Because we know that so many people here, as you said, the school is Hawaii's team, and so many people are so invested in these programs, in the individual athletes as well. What's the best thing for fans to do right now if they can't buy a ticket or they can't go to a game?
Yeah, well, I think I've been amazed at how many fans have reached out during this time, and that just that's kind of energizing and about the possible impact we can have to make a difference in our community. Obviously, if we do have tickets for sale, you buy a ticket, but that might be limited. Any way they can support. We have a lot of great corporate partners. Obviously, we're open for donations. We know it's tough times, We know it's tough times, and we know there's a lot of needs out there. But I mean, a lot of it is even besides the financial support, just the emotional support when they see student athletes, to encourage them and to even encourage our coaches and staff, because these are people who care. And I mean, what Colton said and Caldwell said in the meeting yesterday is it was a no-brainer for him to come back because he's from Hawaii. He's proud to represent the University of Hawaii volleyball team, and it matters. It means something to him. So even the encouraging words mean a lot.
You know, I want to kind of take a little pivot here away from maybe COVID and just general athletics talk. Of course, there is Aloha Stadium that is being redesigned, and there is going through that bidding process. A lot of people looking forward to a new Aloha Stadium. How involved is the University of Hawaii in those discussions in terms of design? Do you guys have any say in what's happening there?
First of all, thank you for asking a question besides COVID. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually are. We've sent with Scott Chan and the Stadium Authority and their consultant. We've sent documents over, like some specs, some requirements we're looking at. Even when Coach Rolovich was here, we had met with them, with our coaching staff, to get input from the football staff, and now also Coach Graham, or Todd, has met with them also. And you know, Todd's been part of a few new stadium developments at Arizona State, so had some really good insights. So I'm very happy and pleased with the engagement. There'll be more going forward. We're treated as a major stakeholder, and we're not afraid to share our opinions and ideas.
And talking about Coach Graham, I mean, you know, there was a lot of excitement, of course, when he was announced, and then all of this sort of happened. You know, what has his sort of take on all of this been? He's still getting used to the islands, obviously, not the introduction that he thought was going to happen. But what has that been like for him, trying to implement a entirely new coaching staff, getting to know these athletes, being socially distant? He's not able to really interact with them. What has that experience been like?
Well, I think it's been really difficult for him. He's chomping at the bit to get on the field and to interact with all our football players. He's done a phenomenal job as far as controlling what he can control. They have Zooms every day by position groups. There's a lot of really just checking in to see how they're doing and focusing on what they can do based on NCAA guidelines. But he and our staff are chomping at the bit. I'll tell you one thing: they have a lot more time to analyze a lot of film. And so what you can do is you can focus on what you can do and get the best in that area. He's also done a good job at outreaching to the community in a lot of different ways in a socially distant manner. I mean, we can't do the circuit we normally do when you get a new coach, where you go introduce them to people, because things ended pretty quickly. But he's he's doing a phenomenal job, and I'm proud of the coaching staff and really proud of all of our student athletes.
Okay, so as it stands now, your belief is that we will have football and we will have it on schedule?
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic we will have football on schedule. I would say I'm a little less optimistic about that, but right now I'd say we're trending in a positive direction. But that's what we're planning for, and we're going to be prepared for that. And here's the thing: is if I'm wrong, let's just say we end up starting 2 weeks late. Well, we got to have a plan and be ready, whether it's September 5th against UCLA at home, or if it's a week later. So we'll be ready, for the beginning of the season.
And in terms of schedules, when the schedules come out and all of that, I guess it'll come out, but it could also potentially be fluid, right? Like, you could release a schedule for all the fall sports, but it could change at a moment's notice.
Yeah, we haven't released as many schedules to date as we normally do this time, and that's why, because things are. We've actually had some people have dropped out and some people have dropped in a positive manner. So we hope to start releasing some schedules, but at the end of the day, when it says subject to change on the bottom, we're really going to mean it this year. I mean, it will really be potential to happen probably a little more frequently.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for taking the time. We know that you are, of course, involved in many things that are happening, not only here at the University of Hawaii, but on the conference levels and those discussions as well. Any final thoughts that you may have for those watching and tuning in, or anything that you want to say to the Hawaii fans?
Well, I just want to, thank everybody. We've gotten a lot of people reached out to us, as I mentioned before, and the encouraging words and the support of our student athletes, our coaches, and our team, and the reminder that our role is really to kind of uplift the community has never been more important for us to do right now. So I appreciate the encouragement and the support. It means a lot, and we're really here to serve and to inspire.
All right, David Matlin, thank you so much for taking the time. Great to hear from you. And we hope to see you in a few months in the fall, and as well as with the rest of the teams from the University of Hawaii.
It'll be great to see everyone in person. Take care.
Yeah. Aloha.
Thank you. Well, very optimistic. I'm encouraged by what he said. And gosh, the logistics of figuring out how to travel, I just, it's safe to say that none of us really can wrap our heads around it because there are just so many unknowns.
Yeah, and I mean, like so many other industries, there are so much, those uncertainties about travel quarantine. And again, right now, the state is currently under that 14-day quarantine. And we've heard from, other people that we've interviewed on this show, like Hawaiian Airlines and those in the hospitality industry who say that they need to sort of plan for the reopening of Hawaii. And so they need to sort of get an idea of when the state plans to sort of lift that and kind of change that mechanism for allowing guests to enter Hawaii. And the same goes with the University of Hawaii. Right now, they can't really do and plan for anything if that continues to happen. So we'll just have to wait and see how things pan out there.
Yeah, and Lieutenant Governor Josh Green is actually in the paper talking about this very specific issue today. There's a big headline about he and others trying to work on a plan to reopen tourism. So we encourage you to head over there and to read that story. The governor is going to be on Monday. We'll, of course, be asking him about this again. There are some talks of perhaps using a model like what Alaska has in place, which is, getting tested 72 hours before you arrive, and that way you can bypass any quarantine. So there are a lot of people working on this, and not just here in Hawaii, but in other states and in other countries. So what can we learn from them? And on that topic, Paul Yonamine is going to be here next year from Central Pacific Bank. He's going to be talking because he's on a coalition of folks that have been trying to figure out these travel bubbles or travel corridors, opening up to Japan, opening up to South Korea, New Zealand, Australia, some of those places where they have very low cases. New Zealand, in fact, having no cases. So that's going to be a very interesting talk to talk to policymakers on how they're trying to figure out the logistics of how that actually works.
That's right. And again, next week is sort of the lifting of the neighbor island quarantine period that we will see for the first time, that where neighbor island travel can begin and resume. So the state kind of using that as a test to sort of see how things would unveil overall for opening up of Hawaii. And again, as you mentioned, we'll be talking to the governor on Monday about some of these issues. And I know that there's still a lot of concern about whether to open. The debate is still, is it time for Hawaii to open? And should we sort of continue to play it a little safe? Right now, there's a question, the Star Advertiser's big question of the day is, do you agree with Hawaii extending through July 31st, the 14-day quarantine for trans-Pacific travelers? I think it's sort of split in the middle right now, with some people saying we should continue to really be cautious. Others are saying, let's open up the state right away. But again, the governor is saying he continues to monitor what's happening on the mainland, and with those rising numbers in states that most likely frequent to Hawaii. And so he's taking the more cautious approach. But again, a great way to participate in that and voice your opinion, head over to the Honolulu Star Advertiser website and vote in that poll so that we can get a better idea of maybe what the pulse of the community is on this topic.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Ingrid, I see your comment. What? You can test positive after arrival. That's why there's a 14-day quarantine, 14 days, 72 hours, 11 days. You're right. There is still that question. And there's a sort of risk-benefit analysis. Is that 72-hour window enough sounds like for someone like you, Ingrid, and for many of the people who are responding to the poll that Ryan's talking about, it's not enough and they want to keep the 14 days. There are others in the business community, in the travel industry, and a lot of people who want to get back to work who say, I'm willing to take that 72-hour test as enough. But are there enough people who feel that way for the governor to lift it? That's what we're going to be asking him.
That's right. Another headline in the paper today is the University of Hawaii is opening up its first COVID-19 clinical trials to treat patients. Of course, this is through the John A. Burns School of Medicine, where they're actually seeking 40 adults with active COVID-19 cases to participate in really the state's first outpatient clinical trial, really to find an effective treatment for the virus that, has really plagued not only us here in America, but throughout the world. So, the patients have to be symptomatic, and there's more information of the type of patient that they're looking for and what they hope to get out of this clinical trial right here at the John A. Burns School of Medicine. We know that they are now playing, that school, the medical school, is playing a more active role in working with testing, is partnering with the city and county of Honolulu in that area as well. But now they're unveiling that they will be looking into doing more of this clinical trial to potentially help to get as much research and information as they can from patients that have been affected directly by COVID-19.
Yeah, so many interesting things happening there. Also on Monday, we're having another guest kind of related, obviously, to science. So we are doing this by the numbers segment on Mondays. We're inviting folks who are affiliated with the Hawaii Data Collaborative to present some data to us. And Thomas Lee, who is a professor of epidemiology at UH Manoa, and he serves as a modeler and a forecaster for HAIMA, that's Hawaii Emergency Management Agency's COVID-19 response team. He's going to be coming on to talk about what the relative risks are for different things like travel, how wearing a mask can impact, different models when it comes to spreading the virus. So he's going to be presenting some really interesting data. We're really looking forward to welcoming Dr. Thomas Lee on Monday. And then Tuesday is Paul Yonamine. Wednesday, we've got another doctor, a doctor who's actually been treating patients with COVID. So we're really interested to talk to him about what his firsthand experience has been like treating these actual patients.
That's right. Looking forward to not only one, but two guests on Monday. So we got a double information coming at you with the governor as well joining us. Of course, we like to end all of our broadcasts by highlighting the good that's happening in the community during these times, the community partners, organizations, and individuals who are stepping up to become what we call our Hawaii hero.
That's right. And today we highlight Lanakila Pacific. They're a nonprofit organization that's focused on building independence for thousands of people, changing lives, really. The organization has a family of programs and services that helps people with disabilities reach their goals and potential. Of course, we all know Lanakila Meals on Wheels. They've been delivering meals to seniors island-wide long before the pandemic. And today we want to highlight a partnership that Lanakila Pacific and Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies has right now, efforts to help keep pregnant and postpartum families supported during this pandemic. So they have been coming together to deliver meals, produce, and diapers to new mothers and families in need of assistance. You know, when you have a baby, it's a time that you really need your family and you need friends to come in and help you make some meals, hold the baby, let mom take a shower, take a nap. And all of these things are so impacted by the coronavirus because you can't necessarily rely on your ohana and your circle in the way that you once could. So a partnership like this, I know, is so important to so many mothers and fathers out there. So we really want to thank Lanakila Pacific and Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, two amazing organizations coming together to support these families in need.
That's right. Mahalo to them for all their continuing efforts in our community. And again, for really coming together during this time to support one another. It's great to see those organizations working together. But again, we mahalo you, our Hawaii hero of the day. Again, we want to thank all of you for tuning in. Of course, we want to thank our sponsors, the Hawaii Executive Collaborative and Hawaii Pacific Health, for making this conversation possible and for allowing us the opportunity to engage with all of you, the viewers. We want to continue to encourage you to write in your comments and your questions. Tell us who you would like to feature. We have a few more weeks of this show left, and we would love to be able to help to provide any other information and resources that we can to really help all of us get through these times together. But until next week, Monday, we want to wish you all a happy Aloha Friday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And we'll see you right back here on Monday at 10:30. Aloha.
Have a great weekend. Aloha.